Welcome to the Embodied Sounds podcast. My name is Joshua Sam Miller. I'm a musician, environmentalist, and entrepreneur focused on helping people connect back to the natural world through the arts. On this podcast, we'll be exploring specifically how sound can help you live a more healthy and balanced life. Please learn more at embodiedsounds.com. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Embodied Sounds podcast. My name is Joshua, and today I'm greeted by my dear friend and musical collaborator, WHAIA, the Sonic Weaver, calling in from Australia. Hey Fire, how's it going?
Kia ora, dear brother Joshua. It is going very well here down under, and the sun is shining and the weather is fine here in Australia. On the East Coast, on the Yindjibarndi language group area of the Gold Coast in Queensland.
Sounds beautiful. I'm excited to talk with you today, and I'm curious if you can kind of back up a little bit for new audiences and new listeners to tell us really, how did you get started in this role of being the Sonic Weaver? What was kind of the inspiration behind that journey?
Well, I think it's fitting that I start with my ancestry. So I'm a Ngati Kahugnunu woman of the North Island, east coast of Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud in New Zealand is my heritage. And I think we're born coming out singing. I think that's just part of our makeup as Māori people. And I remember growing up with my mother having a 12-string guitar in the closet. She kept it in the closet. But my father and I used to play guitar quite a lot. It's been a rocky beginning in my life. When I was growing up, grew up in Australia with my Aboriginal family, and finding my voice was something that took me a very long time to do in this lifetime. And I think it's a past lifetime thing, to be honest. But I didn't share my voice publicly until I was 30 years old in a professional setting as a singer-songwriter with a guitar, a girl with a guitar, just making up her songs and sharing them around the campfire at first, and then friends would go, oh, I'll play with you and let's do a gig here and a gig there, and next thing you know, it turned into an 11-piece band. And they were all playing my songs, and I had a violinist and a percussionist and a drummer and a bassist and a guitar, had all the bells and whistles, and it was really fun there for some years until I started listening more, and then I realized I couldn't hear myself. There was too many people, and we were young and developing. Well, I was, and then I believe I got to this stage where I started to ask the questions, quietly whispering to myself, what else is there? What else is there rather than this kind of a rock and roll folky kind of playing in bars kind of lifestyle with this musical journey and sharing my stories and my heart, basically just expressing myself. And growing up in Australia, you see a lot of Indigenous instruments, especially the iraki, or what they call a didgeridoo. And I started to wonder, what kind of instruments do we have as Māori people, not growing up back home? And I started to kind of call those into my life. And one by one, the instruments were gifted or given by other relatives, because I started asking questions, and then people would introduce me to certain elders, which would spark a whole reconnection to our oceanic way of life and the whale family, and then I started drawing into my field all of these traditional instruments from Aboriginal culture, from Māori culture, from American Native Indian culture as well through my husband. And we then just started sharing. Someone gave me a crystal bowl, in fact, said, hey, try this crystal bowl for a little while. And I was like, what even is this? And it changed my life. It turned my whole life around. I had it for a couple of months and I experimented with it. And then I went to go buy one and I came home with 7. And then next thing you know, my friends are going, can you share some with me? And I'm like, all right, in my lounge room, and just experimenting and sharing with myself first, but then, with my friends. And then they're like, you should do this in a hall. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess so. And then it just grew from there. And then someone said, oh, you should make a business card. And I was like, oh, I guess. I'm like, what would I put on it? And they're like, oh, well, you should put sound healer because you're a sound healer. And I was like, well, am I a sound healer? Is that what I am? Is that what I'm becoming? And as a lot of people, I don't think we call ourselves, well, what I knew back then is that it wasn't fitting for me to call myself a healer, because I was still figuring out healing myself, to be honest. And then when it was printed and I held it physically in my fingers, the business card, and I looked at it with my own eyes, I thought, oh, if I just change the H to a W, and it was like because we weave as Polynesian people, we weave the harakeke, and we weave the plants, and then I thought to myself, oh, I'm a weaver. I'm a sound weaver. I'm a sonic weaver, and I kind of birthed my own kind of direction of where I wanted to go, and it really felt right for me. And then I realized that was kind of the first time. I mean, I Googled it, and like no one was calling themselves a sonic weaver. And I've had that that divine kind of like bolt of lightning, I suppose, for, oh boy, I've been with my husband for nearly 13, 14 years, so about that long.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing your journey with sound and with music. I think that definitely resonates with a lot of people who have been on a path that maybe is a surprise, or not necessarily a straight line or a planned route, but open to where their life might take them. And I can feel that quite strongly listening to your story, that you are one of those people, which is not an easy path to walk sometimes, but can be, I imagine, quite rewarding.
It's very rewarding. You start out kind of just being green, I suppose. An elder spoke to me today and he said, you're only green once, WHAIA. And that's a blessing, because that in that space, then therefore you have the potential for all possibilities. And you have the opportunity to not give yourself any boundaries of discovery, especially when it comes to music. And that's what I really loved about moving into our traditional sounds, the sounds of our elemental world, and into that crystalline frequency, and weaving the ancient voice of our ancestry into that crystalline field of sound, that, it had complete freedom. It wasn't a girl and a guitar with a verse, chorus, middle eight, verse, chorus, and then an outro. That was very restrictive for me. And I felt, I got to the point where I felt really boxed in. Whereas when we start to really explore sound in the capacity that we do, there's so much room for expansion. There's so much room to explore the unknown realm of what is possible. What is possible with these instruments, and what is possible in the way that I uniquely am drawn to them and weave them together. And I think to have that constant freedom, and it becomes almost in an intuitive setting where the instruments start to speak to you instead of you trying to control what is, oh no, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. It becomes more like, who wants to speak in this space right now? When I look at my instruments, I look at them as living beings, and they speak to me, and what I will just my body will just naturally reach for one, or I'll be passing my eyes over one, and it will just draw to me because it's the visceral field of the space and the people that are joining you that weave it all together. It's a ceremony every single time, and it's so beautiful and unknown. And that's the joy and love of this sonic weaving, sound healing, if you like, that I've come to know and develop.
It gives me the good vibes and the chills just listening to you speak about your passion, and can really feel that love that you have for what you do, which is also a blessing. And I have interviewed probably 20 or 30 musicians on this podcast alone, and just in my life in general, always asking questions about the value of listening and the real practice of listening, and how specifically musicians can do that in their life, and what it brings to their lives as a result, which it's nice to hear you speak about as well, because I think that's a practice that many people don't connect with that much.
Mm-hmm.
And in a society so focused on what we see and what we eat and what we, are taking in through the eyes, and more the visual side of life, I find that often the sound kind of gets overlooked sometimes, and people don't realize just how powerful of a sense that can be. So a big passion of mine is helping people reconnect with their own practice of listening, and build that into their daily lives, and be open to that that experience, as a human, whether you're a musician or not. I think that has deep value, and it's inspiring to hear you speak of your journey and how some of that has supported you along the way.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. And it has supported me in my life beyond what I could have ever imagined, and it just continues to grow and build into that field of awareness, awakeness, inspiration, and I really find when we're talking about listening, it's there's a lot of noise going on in the world, right? There's a lot going on within our own mindset, and our chatter to ourselves, and what happened yesterday or last year or whatever. And I think when we are in a sound healing situation, and all of these frequencies are coming at you, and they're washing you over, and really cleansing that whole auric field like a wave crashing onto your body. Those sacred sonics really just wash over your entire aura. Yes, at a molecular level, yes, at a cellular level, but also on the field that is beyond our physical body. And I really believe that it's after that wave that comes, and that you feel that it's in the silence is where all the magic really starts to tingle and come alive. It's the silence within music that actually gives us those emotive moments that touch us deep in our spirit, because it's like taking a breath, and I mean, all great musicians know how to listen for that silence in music, those pauses. Yeah.
Definitely. The rests between the notes. I remember my early clarinet teachers reminding me to pay attention to.
Right. Yeah. And it's those rests between the work that we do in our everyday lives, going here and doing the whatever you need to do to kind of like pay for the physical kind of realm that we live in, our rent and the food and family and all of that sort of stuff. It's the rest that we need to take that actually keeps us topped up, keeps our spirits topped up, keeps our bodies kind of healthy. It's so important. We get like very busy and think, oh, if I'm not doing something, then I'm being lazy or this or that. It's like, actually, it's so important just to practice just being in nature and sitting under a tree for an afternoon if you can, like really, um, we don't do it enough, and our ancestors did it all the time, and this is where the magic really starts to come to us for direction in our life and wellness.
Absolutely. Well said, Fire. Very well said. And thank you for mentioning this extra important source of inspiration and life, nature, in the purest, most rawest form that has been around for 4.6 billion years, way before any of us were here. And we both just released a track together with nature on all of the music channels and are very excited to hear what people are saying about it and be part of this incredible program that is produced by the UN in their Sounds Right office, together with Earth%. And our track was called Universal, which I think is just such a beautiful expression of everything you're just talking about, both in the lyrics, in the chorus, in the melody, and the meaning behind what this track's all about. And we're going to listen to it a little bit later in this podcast, but I want to first hear from you, really, what is Universal about for you, and what do you hope that people receive when they are listening to it?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, it's such a beautiful acknowledgement that we've always been listening to nature, the artist, the oldest, most underpaid artist ever beyond time before, right? And what an honor it is to just acknowledge that silent nurturer in our existence. And when I think about Universal, the track, and how it came to me, um, I was watching the film that you have built with Sounds of the Ocean, and I was watching the footage as I was playing the track that you had built for the foundations of Universal, and it really inspired me because when I think about our connection to our ancestral realms, especially with our Tohora, our whale ancestry, it really, for me, I see it like a total mirror reflection that under the ocean and beyond space is just, it's almost the same dimensional field, and where the conduit in between, just having this kind of understanding, or if that's what we even have, really, we're still learning so much. But it also really kind of comes to me in a way when I think about what did our ancestors used to feel. Like if I can try and put myself in their shoes and what kind of life they used to have, and how did they see the world and view the world, and really access that magic and that intuitive, almost telepathic kind of knowing. And we are in this whole universal kind of field having this amazing experience. And when we look at, say, some glassy water in the night sky, it's a mirror of stars, and our ancestors used to look at a very still pool or lake of water, and they used to read the stars by seeing the reflections in the sky. So it's like opening your eye, and I'm talking about this eye, your third eye. Titiro matawai, open up your eyes, and really to see beyond just like the one-dimensional layer of what our world is and what's really available to us. And this pineal connection that we have, it goes from deep into the earth, through our feet, and way up into the star realm. And we have access to this if we can practice the listening we talk about, the listening to our living natural world and Mother Nature, because they've been humming the universal sounds of the frequency forever, and been sharing with us and telling us all the secrets that it is that we need to know and understand, as to what is our connection to it all. So, yeah, I really feel like we are universal beings.
It's so great to hear you talk about that, because as a creative person, I'm sure you can understand, that when you have a vision, when you have an inspiration and have an idea, very quickly another idea or a counter idea can come in saying, oh, it's a bad idea, or no one's going to like that, or it's not worth it. And, that kind of inner conversation can be overwhelming at times. But when I was first introduced to the sounds of blue whales back in 2019, which was the source of all of my inspiration for creating Sounds of the Ocean and the project that has supported us to birth these tracks, it was that frequency, that just pure obsession or real fascination with what a blue whale sounds like, which has been in existence for thousands, if not millions of years. That was the seed that was planted in my subconscious to share that with people. That was really the vision. It was a very simple mission back then, and still is today. And it's a perfect example, I think, of how important it is to trust those intuitions, those moments in life where you have a vision, you have an idea, and to just go with it. Because listening to you speak about your creative process and how we met and came together and now have created this track that's been released would never have happened if I had doubted that, that idea in the first place. And same for you. So it's wonderful to hear and meet like-minded people around the planet who have built a similar practice, have come from much different backgrounds, but share this common, passion for
Love.
For life and love for life, definitely. And yeah, let's have a listen to Universal, which is featuring WHAIA on vocals and myself on sound design with the voice of Blue Whales, released last month for Earth Day with Sounds Right on UN Live.
We universal, traveling through the stars, sweet water giving life, the ancient living chorus calls us way beyond the surface. Look closely with your eyes. Reflections in the sky of you and I go way beyond the surface.
Welcome back from your journey. I hope you enjoyed listening to Universal featuring WHAIA, Joshua Sam Miller, and Nature. I can't really remember exactly when this song was created, but I know it was created for our performance together in Dubai at the climate conference, which was about 2 years ago now. And
COP28.
COP28, that's right. Yes, we were, to give some context, we were invited by the COP organizing committee to present our project Sounds of the Ocean with global delegates and members of the public that are interested in being part of the climate change movement and conservation movement, which is a very important topic for both of us as well. And it's been a long time since we did that performance, but I definitely have my memories of it that be happy to share. But I'm curious what you remember about singing this song for the first time, both on that stage and also in Berlin last year when we did our second performance of this track. Does anything come to mind for you about either of those experiences?
Yeah, I remember being surrounded by family. When we walk into these spaces, we're walking not alone. We're walking with the strength of our global elder family side by side, and they were sitting in the grandstands, and of course, you know, they were standing beside me. You were standing beside me, and then we had our beautiful supporters and advocates with Oceanic Global and all of the elders of the panel that had spoken before us, and you know, all of the voices that advocate for the health of our oceans, for the health of our planet, in their own unique way, with different backgrounds, different cultures, and I do distinctly remember that moment of singing Universal Track, and having, it was a massive stage actually. The screen was 7 meters by 11 meters or something like that we were standing in front of. We were like a blip on that stage. And I guess we're just a little blip in humanity when it comes to our own lives and the moment that we get to experience. But when I sang that song, I just remember stepping out to the front with nothing but a microphone in my hand, and really, I really believe in the words that I wrote, and the connection that we have, and just singing with all of my heart, because every word that we speak, every song that we sing, every action that we take, it counts, it matters, and we're creating ripples as you know, little individual people, but then as a collective voice as well, we create bigger waves. And that was a very impactful moment for me, to feel and hear the sounds that you had created that were underneath my feet, because yes, they and the whales, that they come from the bottom up. There's so much, like, for technical musos out there, it's very bassy. The big blue whales are like just these sub bass frequencies that rumble through your whole body, and then to sing as a woman, as a mother, with the frequencies and sounds like that, this is the sonic weave that comes into play of the voice and the ancient ancestry and the language that we're kind of putting together and creating this magic. It's magic in a moment, and I hope that people could feel that in what they've just listened to through the track. Yeah, and it was a beautiful, beautiful moment.
Yes, it was. And the blue whales, to even be more geeky, communicate between around 9 and 22 hertz, which, or maybe sometimes up to 30 hertz. And most of that is even below our range of hearing. So it is a felt, embodied experience, I think, to listen to those vibrations. And when I composed that scene for our show and started to lay the foundation for this track, I also received this guidance, I could say, of the singing bowl calling out to me to be played in conversation with these blue whale frequencies. And for many years, that was the only sound that I felt belonged in that particular scene of the show, because the singing bowl and the blue whale, I find, just really is nice together. It's like a sonic massage, a vibrational, orgasm even. And I don't know what it was, but when I first heard your voice at Oceanic Global's event in COP27, rewinding even a year before in Egypt, I received a beautiful performance that you gave at that event as well, and I just knew this is going to be perfect for communicating with these whale sounds and with these oceanic sounds that we had composed at that time. And so it really makes me quite happy to have woven the vocal and the singing bowl together with the blue whale, because it has only added so much more depth and emotion and I think power to that track and to that moment in our performance. So thank you again for that contribution. It really is beautiful. And I'm a little bit biased, but I think it's absolutely lovely. And of course,
I think it's stunning. Yes, thank you.
We've mentioned Oceanic Global a little bit already, but I would like to touch on them again, and also bringing in the Wisdom Keeper delegation, which you are a part of and was also featured at that event in Dubai. So can you tell us a bit of your role with both organizations and how you are advocating for very important causes through that work?
Yeah, it's funny. It's not something that you go, oh, I think I'm going to grow up and I'm going to like join some elder groups and go into the United Nations and do some policy work. It's like that was not something that I wrote down on my wish list of this is what I want to do with my career. It actually was just me continuing to explore the sounds, explore the frequencies, serve my community for some years, until I was invited by one of our elders to join a sacred sites tour of the planet. And in saying yes to being of service to what is that, and I'd actually had I'd had thoughts of like, because we think universally, because we as Māori people really connect to the star constellation of Matariki, and that would translate into the Palladian system, our 7 or 9 blue stars, where we believe that our whales and dolphins, our oceanic family, come from. And when we're talking about the work that we do, it's just something that you just put one foot in front of the other, and before you know it, you're saying yes to being of service, and then it's just another yes. Oh, are you available to come and serve this space? Are you available to come and pray with us in this way? And yes, the answer is always yes. And eventually you find yourself in spaces, and not going because you want to be, in the UN or you want to kind of like work on policy. Speaking for myself, it was more because my family members were going in. We'd become family on these kinds of journeys and ceremonial rites of passage and initiations. And I was learning so much more about myself as well, in the context of walking with human rights lawyers and advocates for nature and people who had created foundations to actually bring about change, like companies like Oceanic Global and the Wisdom Keeper delegation, but also with the Earthrise Collective out of Africa. And there were the shamans from Africa and Peru and the Toltemic Mexican elders, and I thought, wow, well, who am I to be walking amongst people like this? I mean, I'm just a Māori girl playing a crystal bowl and my sacred instruments. Like, oh, what do I know about that stuff? And going back to my earlier statement, as of you're only green once, is because you just keep putting one foot in front of the other and stepping forward and learning and growing and really opening up your whole perception to that there's there's more to this world than yourself and what your life might be. And yes, we all have struggles, but when we start to get out of our own struggles and start to think on it from an eagle eye perspective and looking at the bigger picture, like how can I do something that's going to matter, and that's to support other elders that had been in that realm for 30 years. They've been going into the COP space, trying to really have that Indigenous wisdom, knowledge, voice turned up, and just always just to be present. And I think that's something that we need to continue to do. And I just kind of grew into this, and you know what, I found my strength and resilience within that space, and then became someone who supports others within that space. And it's a natural progression of growth, I believe, when we start to do this kind of work. And it's just, I feel so humbled and honored that I get to be around such wisdom and depth of elders and people like WHAIA from Oceanic Global and the whole team, because it takes many people to move a canoe, not just one. You can't move it alone. And that's something that I've just been witnessing for, well, this is our 4th year going into COP this year. We'll be going into Brazil, into Belém. And 4 years later, I can tell you that the peripheral vision just gets wider and wider and wider, and you start to see familiar faces, and you start to hear deeper things when people talk about stuff, because there's so many people in so many realms. Just in the oceanic realm, there's so many of us out there really advocating and doing all kinds of different work that's needed. And I think it's just important to show up and to keep your eyes open and your ears open and your heart open, and always be willing to accept the diversity of people, the diversity of who we are as a human family, and the different needs that we have. To just keep learning and to keep supporting for the good.
100% agree with that. I think it's the way forward that leads to a healthier life and a healthier planet. I think those two are very much linked together, and has been a big mission of mine to help people see the overlap, because I think it often can be the case that the conversation becomes either health of people or health of planet, and you have to choose. But I think that the real solutions that are being discovered today, and that maybe have been known for centuries but have been ignored, is that when the planet is healthy, people are healthier, not the other way around. So
100%.
I think that there's a big link there. And of course, as artists and as storytellers and people like us, we can play our role in the story. It's been a deep honor for me as well to attend 4 COP experiences, Conference of the Parties, and we will be displaying at the UN Ocean Conference this year as well for our 2nd time. So it's really a coalition, I find, and a team approach to come up with solutions and really stay committed to work on them. I think for me, that's been my biggest takeaway for this chapter of my life. It's really the partnerships for the goals. That's what make things happen. And between Oceanic Global, Wisdom Keepers, several other very talented individuals and organizations that are fighting and working to serve the planet, I think that we are making small ripples of change and small waves of change.
Yes.
And of course, it can be much more. So I hope that when people listen to our music, they are inspired for deepening their own practice and their own passion to advocate for nature in their own way. I was introduced before he passed away to the very knowledgeable and wise gentleman, Wallace J. Nichols, the author of the Blue Mind book and movement to inspire a connection to water in our lives. And I always remember a very wise statement that he gave, which was to really allow people to answer for themselves what they can be doing to be part of the climate conversation, rather than telling them what to do, and asking everyone, if you could just do one thing that you maybe know you could be doing, but you're not doing, then that would be a great start. And I always loved that invitation. I think that there's some real wisdom and real depth there. I had a great conversation with him on a previous episode of this podcast. So if you're interested to hear more from Wallace J. Nichols, definitely check that out. And yeah, what else should we talk about today?
Well, that's a really good point, just to be doing one thing. We get really overwhelmed, the overwhelmed of climate anxiety, of just anxiety in general in our lives, that we need to go and fix it all. With the internet that's come out in these last generations, the information is coming in so hard and fast. Our physical bodies aren't really keeping up. And, to simplify, the elders always teach us to simplify our lives, to be in a more healthier mental state and a healthier physical state. We're running ourselves to the ground, and I think it's a big reflection on the health of our planet and how we're running it to the ends as well. With all of our species that are like disappearing, and our rivers that are being poisoned, and it's just, I believe, like, if we could slow down and just do one simple thing, that is enough. Like, taking care of your own self, your own body, and your own family it's enough. Taking care of your extended, aunties, uncles, or elders, that's enough. Planting a garden, like, it doesn't have to be that you go and like overdo yourself with overwhelm. So it's a really good point that you make.
You too. I find that this is an easy trap to fall into when you are a very passionate climate activist, and it's important. It's important to fight for causes that we believe in. And I'm very admired by your passion for being at several events throughout the year to really make that voice heard and represent your family, your community, your elders, and your ancestry. And as I prepare to become a father in the next couple of weeks and transition my priorities to that nuclear, family, in the sense, and responsibilities at home, and maybe not going to so many conferences, I'm also tuning into what being a modern day ecopreneur or ocean activist really requires, because I think that I'm already tuning into the importance of setting up the next generation for having a healthy, foundation to pull from. And I don't think we can wait, for them to fix the problems. I think that has been a mistake, definitely from the past generations, to always be pushing it down the road. But yeah, we can't be everywhere. And I'm just to kind of bring us back to where we started. This track that we just released with the Sounds Right program is really incredible. on this level because 50% of all the royalties that are collected from people just listening to music are now finally going back into funding conservation projects. So even when you're at home or at work or in the car and want to tune into something on Spotify or Apple Music, if you check out the Nature Collaborations podcast or playlist, you will actually be listening to music and saving the planet at the same time.
Sounds simple enough.
This is beautiful.
Drive to work, save the planet.
This is more than enough for a large majority of people. And of course, we're both, well, I'll speak for myself, deeply grateful to be part of this project and work with extremely talented artists on this release. So anything else you want to share with the audience today?
I mean, there's so many things I could share. There's just almost too many things. Like, which one? I think, yeah, okay. Well, I guess for me, it comes back to my voice. I when I like to talk about my voice, I now, and I'm 50 this year. I'm going to hit the big 50, and I'm very excited about it. And it's taken me, a good 20 years to actually discover the power of my voice. And I believe my voice is my superpower. So I would just like to share the power of the voice. And every voice is so unique and so individualized and has its own power. And when we start to discover what that actually means and how that connects into nature, we can really start to build those relationships, not only just within ourselves, but within the health of the planet. And what really started to make me reach for answers is, I became a mother. And there became something a bit bigger than myself, something beyond myself, something that I would be leaving behind in this world that would live on beyond me. And if I can just go and seek for that wisdom, that ancient wisdom, and revive that. And we all have our own ancient divine wisdom from many different cultures around the world, no matter what color you are or what area you come from, the lakes that you live by, the mountains that you live by, those specific trees that breathe for you, they all have their own divine messages for you. And I think this is where, with the internet, we can be looking so far outside ourselves that all we need to really do is just to come back to our own immediate environment to actually tap into the real net of the mycelium life, of the water connection, whether it's your lake or your ocean or your river that you live by. I think that's something that we can all reconnect to support ourselves on the journey.
Absolutely. One of the things I've really enjoyed studying in my musical journey is the lineage of Indian raga music, which is all about connecting with nature, and really is a good example of just for how long we have been pulling from the natural world for inspiration and for creative ideas, which, in my opinion, is just perfect. And there's one raga in particular that I like to listen to and can play a very little bit. I'm definitely no expert, and that's the rag yaman, which is a beautiful scale. I'd say best enjoyed in the afternoon or the evening when you want to wind down. And one of my teachers, who's also a great vocalist, said, when she started to just be in nature and sit there and listen, is when the voice started to come through, and there was space for her voice to naturally emerge without forcing anything.
Yeah.
And I really think that people today can benefit from building more of that into their lives, regardless if you're a professional vocalist or someone who has never sung before in her life.
Right. Yeah. 100%. It's almost like you're throwing out your own umbilical cord to reconnect back to the original mother of who we belong to, and that lifeline and relationship. And you do not have to be singer like Beyonce or all of those kind of like famous kind of, well-known people. What really matters is your own unique connection to those spaces. And I can tell you, we're all just coming down to being human at the end of the day, and I think self-judgment is something that we can start to relax on and start to really build that self-loving remembrance from our voices and into our nature realms, into the forests or running stream. Yeah, it's the heart that matters.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Fire. And where can people learn more about your work and follow up with you to go deeper with their maybe own exploration of the voice or listen to what you have to share?
So most of my work that I share lives on the Instagram world, on with WHAIA Creation, and that's spelt with a WH. Our cultural language, the WH sounds like a F, and the AIA, WHAIA Creation, something that I birthed over a decade ago when I was like, not sure if I resonate with my birth name. Really kind of moving into a whole new frequency of development. And that was the name that was given to me by one of my aunties, and it stuck. And that's another story that I can share for another time. But yes, you'll find me on Instagram, and I do have a website that is under construction. We're birthing so many new things at the moment. But we'll be traveling across the world on a big world tour this year. We're going to the Salish Sea in Washington in the US. We'll be going to Nice in France for the World Oceans Conference. We'll be doing Canada this year, and in New York in the Lincoln Center, the UK, and of course Berlin and Germany with Sounds of the Ocean in October, and then into Brazil for COP30, and then we will be going to Hawaii, back to the motherland of our Polynesian family in December and January, where I'll be holding a women's retreat with whales and all of our star navigation. And you can follow along if you'd like. Send me a message.
Fantastic. So honored to have you on the podcast, Fire, and just to know you in life. Very grateful for our friendship and professional collaboration. And thanks to all of you for listening. This is the Embodied Sounds podcast. My name is Joshua, and you can listen to more episodes at embodiedsounds.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, and have a great day.